tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Steve Garriott. I have been a technical writer for somewhere around 24 years. Senior technical writer now, working for IntelePeer out of Denver, Colorado. Just started with them beginning of January. Before that, did some contracting. I've worked for Oracle. I've worked for a number of, went through kind of the dot-com era, hit a lot of those little companies too. So been, a part of a big group of writers as well as the only writer in a company, tiny, smaller companies, not tiny, but smaller.
And where did this journey start for you? In other words, how did you land your first job in technical writing?
Well, I started off with a degree in education and humanities and theater arts, and so what basically I was a high school teacher for 10 years, and then at the end of the 10 years, I kind of understood that either I stayed with teaching and kind of put my family off to the side because teaching is pretty um, immersive. If you're going to do it right, then you spend your whole life around teaching and taking care of kids and stuff. And I'm not that selfless. So plus I wasn't making very much money. So basically pretty you know pretty pretty self-centered. Um, so after 10 years, decided to retire and moved to the Seattle area because I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always done my own fiction writing and stuff like that on the side, and just writing is what I do. I taught it to high school kids, and but also my interest in the technical side of things was also kind of drew me into this. So I decided that the best way is to go into technical writing. You can make money, and Seattle was a great place for that kind of experience. So came up here, expected immediately that the people would follow over themselves wanting me to write for them, and found that that was not the case. So this was quite a long time ago. So um, I I didn't have a computer well, I had a computer, but it wasn't a very good one, and certainly didn't have the money to take courses in learning how to use the Microsoft Suite, which seemed to be the one thing that people were saying you don't have any experience. But how do you get experience unless somebody gives you experience? So I figured out that Kinko's uh, was the place to go because they had, if you were an employee, you have free computer um, use, and they had all sorts of training tutorials for both the Mac and the PCs. So I learned the Microsoft Suite through there, and then basically in those days you mail your resumes out to people or you hand them out, and I absolutely have no idea how I got my first job. I did not send a resume to this person, but she liked working with teachers and and they needed a junior level tech writer, and so they pulled me in. I took a quick little course and they hired me. But in those days, resumes got passed around. They got um, you know mailed to each other, or emailed. There was still some technology back in the days. It wasn't dinosaurs or anything, but um, totally different environment than it is today in terms of getting it. But and then from there, just kind of bopped around. About every 6 months, I would go to a new job, either follow some other writers who went to other companies, or um, you know people who knew me. After a while, my network started growing, and so I would get calls every once in a while from people who said, we need a tech writer. You want to come and work for us? And if I had the if I was between jobs or ready to move, then I would go. So about every 6 to 9 months for the next 5 years or so, I was jumping from company to company, and some was layoffs to get moved. Others, I had a couple of companies go out from under me, which was very interesting. um, and then found myself at Washington Mutual, worked for them for a while until the writing was on the wall. This was during the banking issue with Long Beach Mortgage and all the shady stuff that Washington Mutual was doing. So I I wanted to stay there because I wanted again I want my money. I wanted my severance. But some friends of mine um, said, you need to come to this place, and so they harassed me for about 3 weeks until I interviewed, but didn't really want to move because I again wanted the money, but the job was so enticing, and I knew that if I passed this job up, I was gonna regret it for the rest of my life. So went to a little company called Instant Service, which did chat and email, and then we were purchased by a company on the East Coast, and then a year after that, we were purchased by Oracle. So I worked through that for about 10 years from that beginning, and then there was a big layoff at Oracle, and I did some contracting until the most recent 3 months off, just because nobody was hiring and my contract was over, and then just picked up this job in January. So that's kind of my tech writing journey.
That's exciting. And then it seems like, through this journey, you've had to adapt and maybe often like reinvent yourself to some extent with learning new skills
Yeah,
along the way. Can you talk
definitely.
about, some of those key moments where you made these tangible efforts to continue accelerating your career as a technical writer? Because often what happens is, a company may go under, or this is
Right,
just a cycle of companies, right? Like it's not like
right.
every company is going to last forever. It's just
True.
sort of a myth when that people think that.
Yeah.
And being able to continue to survive and adapt and grow. So what are some things that you've taken, whether that be like mindset or actual like examples of what you've done
Sure.
to, yeah.
Um, well, the number one thing I think that prepared me for being a tech writer is being a teacher. Um, First of all, you have, whether you know it or not, as a teacher, you have a number of bosses that you deal with, and I'm not just talking about administrators. The kids that are in your class are all your bosses, whether you know it or not. If you as a teacher don't understand that concept, then you don't get it. You have to know your audience, and you need to know how to change um, your way of applying the information to those different audiences. So it could be an age difference, but in a lot of cases, it's more of an experience issue. So you're looking for, you know, the personas, creating personas for the people that you're writing for. And so that, and the fact that um, chaos is a byword for being a teacher, was perfect for what I had to deal with from that point on. So it's like um, tech writing. IT environments, software environments are extremely chaotic. Um, they, depending on the size of the company, they can turn on a dime. Um, it was funny because for this newest job, when I first interviewed, I was interviewing with the marketing manager because I was going to be working for her. And during the month that that it takes to make their final decision, the the one of the IT project managers became my manager. So just within a month, that company had already switched and changed their direction. So if you can't handle chaos, and you don't thrive on the fact that no days are ever the same, um, this is not the job for you. You have to be willing to change your directions, change your choices, Um, so many different, each company has their own way of doing things. But adaptability and diplomacy is huge. Um, I've had a chance to talk to a couple of people who just recently who are interested in becoming tech writers, and the one thing that I tell them is um, writing is about 10% of what you do. Writing is the fun stuff in a lot of cases. Because you just kind of do your thing. You don't have to be, you can kind of heads down, get your stuff done. The rest of it though is a lot of project management, a lot of investigation, a lot of communication, lots of meetings. I would say of the last month and a half, I would say probably 70% of my time has been in meetings and talking to people. So if you're good, if you're a good listener and a good note taker, um, and you get along with all sorts of different personalities, then and you like to work with really smart people. Um, I highly recommend this job. It just I've never there have been stressful times as companies go through different things, but the nice thing about being a teacher is that no matter how stressful my job gets, I just tell people, yeah, okay, how about 30 high school students in front of you for 90-minute class periods? Let's talk about stress. So it's like, no, you guys don't know stress. Not stress.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, so that's kind of where I come from.
And let's dive into some of the tools that you use that really help you with your work. So, would that be like software or, yeah, if you just want to dive into it?
Um, I mean, the huge proportion of people tend to be like Microsoft shops. So the Microsoft tools definitely worthwhile. I would highly recommend avoiding learning too much about PowerPoint, or else you'll be doing PowerPoint presentations for executives for the rest of your life. So I just go, well, I know a little bit about PowerPoint, but I don't. But definitely Excel and Word. But um, the other things I would say are really important to know, just from a knowledge level, because I mean, tools are tools. I mean, if you hand me a different shaped shovel than I'm used to, I can still use the shovel because I know what shovels do. So it's like if you hand me a word processing program or system like that, then I'm going to be able to use it. Like the newest job I'm at now uses Madcap Flare, which I've never used before. I knew a little bit about it, but the things that always carry over are HTML, XML, um, learning. Uh, it's more the bedrock stuff than it is the gadgets. So learning about as many different programming languages as you can. Um, I'm not a programmer, but the point is that you have to be able to communicate with people who are programmers. So um, you need to know their languages. So, like I say, I speak Java, but with a very, very thick accent. I am not. It's hard for me to necessarily understand you. I get it, um, but HTML, XML, as many programming languages, at least dip in and understand them. That's very important. Um, Anything you can do about interpersonal relationships is really important too. Getting along with other people and knowing, the kinds of things uh, that you need. Sometimes I have to be a little more assertive than I normally am as a person, but I've kind of created the Steve persona as a tech writer who tends to be sometimes kind of pushy and sometimes you have to let them know that the writing is part of the product. And if we don't get the writing done, and people aren't going to be able to use your product, what's the use in you handing them over something that they have no instructions for it? They can bumble around through it all they want, but they aren't going to be using the full power of whatever you're writing. So it's important that we get that kind of stuff in place too. So my tools are very humanistic in most cases, if because each company is going to fit their own stuff in the slots that you have. But like I said, 10% of it's working with the gadgets, and the rest of it's trying to understand the gadgets that you're writing about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the questions that I really want to dive into here, and technical writers have given all different types of answers, is
Sure.
where do you see the future of technical writing going in terms of industry, tools, what we just talked about, and yeah, you want to run with it.
Well, the cool thing is that I've seen tech writing go from printed manuals that went with the software, and the software was often on CDs, um, to the point where nobody prints. There's no print documentation anymore for the things that I do, and because it tends to be everything's moving to the cloud. If your company is not cloud based, you probably need to get there, because that's where everything's going. So a lot of stuff a lot of the writing is going to be based in an internet world. So that's why I'm saying HTML, XML, JSON, JavaScript, those kinds of things, Python, the things that developers are using to do things online. Those are the things that you need to be able to do, because what's happening is that the concept of docs as code is coming into its own too. So docs are being simplified too. So you're using things like markdown languages, which are really simplified kind of sub HTML sorts of things. For example, if you in Markdown, if you want to make a heading level 1, you put 1 hash mark in your words. That's having heading level 1. And if you can figure out what heading level 2 is, then you get the prize. Very simplified, very internet friendly language. And a lot of companies are actually going to GitHub and using Git as their way of handling their own internal documentation and customer documentation too. And I think there's GitHub even has something called Git documents or Git docs, where it's their application for creating documents from the stuff that you save on Git or on GitHub. So documentation is becoming kind of a code, of its own. It's getting to the point where it and the code that your company produces for their applications are starting to meld together. So, that's kind of the direction I see, at least from the progress I've seen over the last 24 years or so.
Yeah, very true. I think, that's very much the case, and I would agree with you there. One of the things I'd like to talk about is some of the hurdles that technical writers face in the workplace. A lot of the people that are going to be watching this video and that are watching this video are new to technical writing and maybe trying to break into the industry, or have just gotten their feet wet and now trying to advance their career.
Sure.
And they're facing a lot of these first time hurdles, whether that be in communication or in other areas, and trying to solve them. So if you can help explain some of these hurdles and how to solve them, that would be great.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things that just recently, within the last 2.5 years, that I've found is actually a website. And the website is I'd Rather Be Writing. and I'm trying to remember his last name. His first name is Tom, but this man has put together an extraordinary website that goes through a lot of the stuff that you as a tech writer would need to understand to be effective, and that also includes a lot of companies are looking for API writers. So the documentation that goes out with APIs, um, application programming interface. So it's what developers use to access information from your company from your databases. So how developers are going to access that information off your servers needs to be documented, because they need to know there's a certain syntax and a certain methodology for writing the code for getting that information. So there's a lot of companies that are looking for people who can also write API documentation, and this website has a free course that walks you through it. This man has been doing multiple seminars on the subjects of technical writing in general. So that's been a great resource for me lately. As far as new writers, people are looking for experience, and one of the other places that you might want to look at is on GitHub. People are looking for writers to volunteer to help them with their documentation. So you can volunteer for different projects in GitHub and help those developers write their documentation. So that would give you experience. Another suggestion that I've made to people is pick an application that you are somewhat aware of and write the documentation for it. People don't need to know whether you did this for money or not. They want to see what you can do. And so having a somewhat of a portfolio is important. But if you don't have a job, how do you do a portfolio? So you create your own, or you volunteer and do documentation for other people. If you're having problems getting that first job because people don't think you have any experience, then volunteering is an alternative. And there's also information on I'd rather be writing on how to volunteer and how to find jobs, because the open source environment of GitHub makes it so that people are writing programs for all sorts of things. If you're interested in finance, there's all sorts of stuff in there. If you're interested in gaming, there's people who are doing that kind of stuff, and all of that stuff needs to be documented to be effective. So those are kind of the hints that I give people. And the other thing is just be persistent. Don't take no for an answer. Just don't be obnoxious. But you'd be surprised how many hidden jobs are out there that aren't being promoted. Do your research. Look in the companies that you want to work for, and then just start talking to these people. Get informational interviews with people. Just say, I realize you don't have a job right now, but I'm interested in knowing what your company would be looking for in a tech writer that would be coming in. What skills are you looking for? What kind of experience are you looking for in a junior level, because that's where I would be coming in as. So and once your name's out there, it's surprising how this stuff gets passed around from person to person. Your network of people that you've already come in contact with is invaluable for helping you find different companies. I follow all sorts of people around and look at what companies they're working for and just kind of go, okay, I trust that person. They've been there for 5 years. This might be a good company to at least consider. And then, make your inroads, talk to people that there, and also talk to the tech writing department and see what kind of things they're looking for. But, you know, be persistent and keep, keep at it, and eventually you're going to find something. And the one thing that we're learning now in this new environment is that you're not subject to the job market where you live. You have the whole country as your job market. I work for a company out of Denver, Colorado. I will not ever be if I stay with this company, I will not be commuting to the office. I will be remote for my whole career with them. Um, and so you could be on the East Coast and work in the West Coast. You could be in the Midwest and work anywhere. I mean, and more. I just heard today Salesforce is saying work from home. We're no longer 9 to 5 in the office. We're whenever, because they're finding that people's times and their abilities are kind of shift. And the people that you need may be on the East Coast, and even though your company's on the West Coast, get the best people. You have the whole world. In some cases, we have people in Colombia, and I've worked with people in India, and it's pretty, it's cool. I mean, this, honestly, tech writing is a freaking cool job. You don't have the kind of pressures that a project manager has, but you still kind of have sort of a project management um, type job. You have to know how to handle a lot of things simultaneously.
Yeah, definitely. And we're coming up on time here, so I just want
Sure.
to ask you, is there any other advice that you have for technical writers who are looking to break in?
Um, just, there are lots of forums. Get to know people. Um, if you're going to be a tech writer, you're going to talk to people, lots of different people. So get used to it. Start doing it. LinkedIn. Get yourself on LinkedIn and get yourself connected to some forums. Go to Reddit. There's a lot of subreddits for technical writing and freelance stuff, and there's just a lot of stuff out there. It almost too much to handle, but everything you need, free tutorials on just about everything. Um, in my day, you had to pay for everything, and now you hardly have to pay for anything if you don't want to. So I would say, get yourself connected as best you can.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Steve, for being here with us today
Sure.
and doing this interview. And thank you to everybody who's watching. And if they want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
I would say contact me on LinkedIn. I have a number of people that I talk to regularly and encourage them to keep me informed of how their career is going. So LinkedIn, I think there's only one Steve Garriott, so it's me. So feel free. I work for IntelePeer, so that'll also help identify me out there. But that would probably be the best way to get in touch with me.
Well, awesome. Thank you again for being here.
Thanks,
And
Josh.
yeah.